Hello and welcome to our new series, Overwatch Champions. The goal of this content is to cover everything from the basics all the way up to the highest level of competitive play and to fill you in on the details in between. Whether it's how to best utilize your skills on Reinhardt or strategies and counterpicks, we're here to help you to refine your understanding of what it takes to play at your best. Today's episode is an introduction to the series with some simple tips and suggested settings to give you a competitive edge right out of the gate. Players that are new to PC gaming or first-person shooters in general will find this information particularly helpful, but veteran players may learn a thing or two as well. So let's jump straight into it. First things first, let's talk about your physical setup. First-person shooters, or FPS games, are very intensive on your mouse hand, so to maximize your aiming potential, you want a large, clear surface and a big mouse pad for consistent performance. Try to keep your gaming area free from clutter. There's almost nothing more frustrating than losing an important fight because your mouse gets stuck on something. You also want to make sure that your elbow is parallel with your desk, meaning you're on the same level as your desk and you're not reaching up to get to your mouse pad. It's okay to be a little bit above your desk, but try not to be slouched below it. When it comes to FPS, if you've ever watched a pro player at a LAN or on stream with a mouse cam, you probably notice that they move their entire arms, and their mouse pads are huge. This is because aiming with a mouse is all about muscle memory, which means it improves over time the more you're able to reflexively react. You can move your cursor without really thinking about it. As a result, you want to keep a few things in mind. If you plan to get serious, having a gaming mouse that allows you to adjust settings with a program, such as disabling acceleration, adjusting your DPI, which stands for dots per inch, we'll touch on that in a moment, and your polling rates is a huge plus. Most longtime PC gamers will tell you that PC peripherals specifically designed for gaming, like Razer, SteelSeries, Zowie, etc., are an absolute must. I don't have any personal recommendations, though I am preferential to Razer products, as they've been pretty good to me. Consider setting a budget of $100 to $200 to get a nice gaming mouse, mechanical keyboard, and a decent headset. Sound is also very important in Overwatch, but we'll touch on that in another video. Next up are your in-game settings. First, we'll cover the controls. For players who are new to PC or first-person shooters, it may seem strange, but you actually want to use a very low sensitivity. So let's talk about DPI. I mentioned DPI just a moment ago, and it stands for dots per inch. In simple terms, it adjusts how sensitive your mouse is to movement. The average pro player plays between 400 and 1000 DPI. By default, most gaming mice and even generic mice from store like Staples are set to 1000 to 3200 DPI or higher, some even going as high as 8600. So you should take some time to adjust it lower. 400 to 1000 is good, 800 is the most common spot for people that are looking to get into shooters. In-game sensitivity actually calculates by multiplying your DPI by the number you've chosen. If this sounds complicated, it's because the science behind it kind of is, but it's not too difficult to understand in-game. I personally play at 400 DPI and 8 cents. This means that doing a full swipe from left to right of my mousepad only turns about 180 degrees. Sounds pretty slow, right? By default, you can probably do many 360s swiping left to right even on a small mousepad. But this means that the tiniest of twitches can result in huge jumps in on-screen crosshair, which makes muscle memory almost impossible to develop. Try to adjust your settings to find a comfortable level, and slowly bump your sensitivity down until you learn to play with the slow movement. I don't suggest going any higher than 800 DPI with 10 sensitivity or 1000 DPI with 8 sensitivity. Just a quick note, in the top right corner of the controls menu, there is a drop down for individual hero settings, where you can even adjust the individual sensitivity for heroes. This may be something you want to take a look at, and we'll touch more on this in another video. There are some pretty nice advanced settings, and some heroes do have unique settings, such as Soldier 76 being able to see allied health bars, since he has a heal that his team can stand in. For right now, let's wrap things up here and we'll talk about your graphical settings. When it comes to FPS games, it's all about the FPS. Confused? Good. FPS stands for first-person shooter, but in this case, we're referring to frames per second, or your frame rate, which talks about how smooth your game is running. So from here on out, we'll refer to the FPS genre as shooters. You can find the option to enable performance stats in the video options, which shows you your frame rate, temperature, and some network info. If you're new to PC gaming, you've probably never heard the terms refresh rate or 60 Hz, 120 Hz, 144 Hz. What these refer to is how many times per second your monitor updates the image. When it comes to shooters, a split-second reaction can make all the difference, so just as with your peripherals, if you intend to get serious, a good 120 Hz or 144 Hz monitor is a great investment. I personally use the Asus VG248QE 144Hz monitor, and a lot of LAN events sport this model as well. The difference in quality is really night and day, and it will make a pretty big impact on your performance as you get to higher levels. But, in order to fully utilize those high refresh rates, you need to have a frame rate to match. If your frame rate is not as high as the refresh rate on your monitor, you're not actually getting the full performance. In general, even gamers with super beefy PCs tend to set their settings low in competitive games for two reasons. First, it helps you to maintain a high frame rate, giving you the smoothest and clearest picture with little distortion in the image. And two, it helps to reduce the amount of on-screen noise, or effects and clashing information that can make an encounter hard to process mentally. You don't always want to see all those flashy things on screen because it can distract you from the important information. I suggest setting almost all of your settings as low as they can go, or off. I personally prefer to keep texture detail high and shadows off, though some people prefer to play with shadows on and texture detail low. A fairly unique setting in Overwatch is the render scale, and this basically just lowers the overall pixel ratio quality scale by a percentage, and can often result in huge jumps in performance. If you're struggling to maintain a frame rate of 120 FPS or higher on your machine, even after setting everything to low, I suggest lowering your rendering scale one step at a time until you see a noticeable improvement in the frame rate and can actually maintain 120. If you still can't squeeze a good frame rate out, it may be time to consider upgrading the old Bones PC. Seriously, Overwatch is a very well optimized game, and even some older PCs can run the game quite well on low settings, so if your PC is still struggling, it may be a sign that it's time to upgrade. That's it for this episode of the Overwatch Champions series. If you like this introduction to the series, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a like on the video. It helps us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content and want to see more. And also, feel free to leave a comment down below letting us know what you'd like to see in the next video. This series is produced and sponsored by BreakTheGame.net. For the latest news and all things Overwatch, as well as other major esports, check out the site for interviews, series like this one, and reporting on all the biggest names and events in esports. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.